Laureen Belmont, and this is my husband, Larry Belmont. We came to Coeur d'Alene in 1971.
Yes.
We moved here from Spokane. We met in Alaska, and Larry went to school in Michigan and got his public health degree, and then eventually we ended up here. And we have spent the last 40, how many?
Well, 41 years here
41
in
years,
Coeur d'Alene.
yeah.
I'm Larry Belmont. I was born and raised in Reno, Nevada, and like Laureen said, we met in Alaska, and from there we went to Ann Arbor, and then ended up in Spokane working for the medical school. And from there, when the Panhandle Health District started in 1971, I applied for the job and eventually got it. And I contribute that to Laureen getting the job for me, because they asked me what my goal in life was, and I had it all worked out. And Laureen said his goal in life is to get all 4 kids toilet trained, and at the time that was my goal in life. But anyway.
When I first came here, when the kids were little, I enrolled them in the Montessori school that was here, and I taught there for 10 years, and then went back to Gonzaga and got my master's degree, and since that time I taught at NIC for 24 years, English and humanities, which was really fun, and that's certainly one of the things that kept me in Coeur d'Alene, was working for NIC, because I loved it, and it was a family of people back then that really had mutual goals of how we felt we wanted a student to think and be when he or she left NIC. And we had a lot of goals about being able to communicate, having mathematical abilities, having an understanding of people and cultures. And it was really quite an exciting time for me. I think we've seen a lot of changes and things that I'm not always so happy about, but you can't change that by leaving. You're not going to affect a difference if you just pick up and go away. One
of the main reasons that I stayed here, of course, was the concept of the Panhandle Health District and the 7 health districts in Idaho. And I liked the decentralization of trying to get this decision-making and service of public health down to the people. Because public health does impact everyone, whether they like it or whether they know it or whether they even realize it. To live in a community like this with water becoming a very, very valuable resource throughout the world, not just here in the United States, but throughout the world, it is a luxury. And we have a tree farm south of town at Rockford Bay, and I love going out among the trees and working in the wilds, if you would call it that, in the woods, and being able to come back to a town like this and go to Spokane for their cultural events, and to watch the kinds of cultural events that are now starting to form here in Coeur d'Alene really means it's a pretty progressive little community. The fact that it is still little but is becoming more sophisticated is very interesting to me, because you can still go hunting, you can still go fishing, and you can still do the things that you can't do in some of the bigger communities around the United States. You have to be into the community, because public health is really community health. And when you get into one facet of the community, you see the interrelationship with others and how they relate to other people and other concepts within the community. And it just never ends, because you go from one to another, and you just meet interesting people, and it just all kind of interrelated and kind of demanding.
I only would get involved in politics because I really admired someone like Mary Lou Reed, whom I felt just should be our state senator, and she was, of course. And then the kind of people that you work with when you get into things like, oh, working on human rights and working on Art on the Green and all of those kinds of things. And I also think that the fact that I was associated with NIC helped me spread out a little bit and meet more people and become involved in more things. But I really think it was the people. That's what keeps me going.
I think one of the things that is important in a community like this is how it manages its growth. And I'm talking about the metropolitan area of Coeur d'Alene, the Hayden, and on out to Rathdrum and places like that. Because the prairie used to be just wide open when we first came here. And you have to remember that water, potable water, drinking water, is a very limited natural resource. We can grow more trees, but we can't make more water. We can distill some of the salt out of the ocean and things of this nature, but the hydrological cycles stay pretty much the same over the years. So how we manage this growth will impact not just the community, the style of the community, the society, but the most important resource that we have. The second most, air is of course the most important, because you can only live a few minutes without air, but you can live a couple of days or so without water. So water is a limiting factor of life in some parts of the world, and I don't think people give it the proper respect that it needs and treasure it as it needs to be done into the future. As more and more people grow, as our populations grow, water is still a very life-limiting factor.
Well, and I think we also have to think about our children growing up here and what is it going to be like for them. And I think we need to manage our politics and our, as Larry says, our growth, how much building we do. We don't want to just ruin it all, because when our grandkids get grown up here, we'd like to see them stay. But as we've all talked about, a lot of our children have left because of various factors, of course, but some of them didn't feel like this is the place they wanted to stay because it's grown so big. And I'm not saying that big is bad, I'm just saying that it has to be controlled so that it's a reasonable thing for people.
We have to work smarter, not just harder, and we have to plan smarter than we have been in the past. So what you can see in the news where water is a limiting factor of life in other places in the world. But the resources that we do have do need to be managed very carefully, and I don't know that we're really doing that, and that's what kind of worries me. So. Okay. I think the fact that it's still a small community and you can walk downtown and you may disagree with these people politically or philosophically, but you are involved with them in something different. You go to a different kind of, you go to the theater, you go to the movies, you go to an event and they're there and you're talking with them all and things of this nature. I think we need more of that, and that's one of the things I like about this community is that the mayor is in town and the council members are in town. You don't always agree with them, but they're there and you can talk to them. And that's the same with legislators too. And I've always really appreciated
And I would agree with that. I think the more people that we can communicate with, hopefully we can come to some kind of agreements and not be so polarized. I think that's a major problem for Coeur d'Alene, is the polarization of some rather insignificant things, really, and there's no reason for us to just take a stand because we're who we are, but I think we need to communicate better, and we probably in this community need better means of communication.